Welcome to the Arun Church podcast, where our mission is bringing life to everyone, everywhere, every day. Each podcast episode features the latest talk from our church, which are released weekly. We're passionate about Jesus, love to worship together, and are committed to changing our community for the better. Connect with us at arunchurch.com.
Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? All right? It's the first week in January, isn't it? And we had a little bit of snow and it's always interesting, January, I always find. But we are going to start looking at our roots today. We're going to be starting by looking at like the whole series of roots, and then we'll look at wings later on. So we're starting with roots, but we're going to be looking at, I've called it really the seed. So we're looking at the seed for now, then we'll look at soil, then we'll look at how we're growing. But for now, we're going to start with looking at seed ourselves. What are our roots? The roots that we have. Now, some roots that we may have may be really healthy, strong, good roots. Some roots that we may have may not be healthy, may not be strong, and may not be good for us. And so I want us to spend the next few weeks looking at what are healthy roots in ourselves and what do we need to dig up and get rid of, and what do we need to go deeper in? And so we're going to be looking at our roots, our own roots, over the next few weeks. And today I want to look at what is our name. So, your name has so much significance, doesn't it? When I really started thinking about this, I mean, whether you like your name, maybe, I don't know, maybe you love your name. Maybe you think, oh, I love my name. I love the name that my parents call me. Maybe you're called the middle name. There's so much diversity in our names. I was called Rebecca Louise Thatcher when I was born. So I've gone through different kinds of names. Like, I'm now no longer a Thatcher. I was quite relieved at that. Can you imagine being a Thatcher in the 70s? Wasn't that great? Everybody said, are you related to Margaret Thatcher? Every time that I went, said what my name was, they would say, are you related? And then Rebecca Louise, sometimes they say, Rebecca Louise covered in fleas, like that. And then I was called, then as time went on, I called myself Becca. Well, I don't know if I called myself Becca or I don't know. Anyway, Becca's my name, okay? So, and then sometimes people with Rebecca want to call you Becky, or they want to call you something else, and you're like, that's not actually my name. But then you get embarrassed about saying that's not my name, don't you? And anyway, we have all sorts of things around our names. I think about Jacob here. Jacob was born Ezra, weren't you? And then Jacob, what? You are still Ezra. Right, that is right, Jacob. You are still Ezra. So anyway, Jacob was born with the name Ezra, and then he came from the Philippines. And what happened, Jacob? You gave the middle name to your teacher, and then they called you Jacob, and that's what they called you for the rest, didn't they? That's what happened. Harry, right? I called Harry Harrison, and I don't know that. Do you like that name very much, Tim? I don't know, but we called him Harry, so we called him Harry all his life, and now when he goes to work, he calls himself Harrison. So there's so many different sorts of names that we have, isn't there? And I was thinking about this because when we went on a family trip, on a family holiday to Gibraltar once, right? Well, we didn't go to Gibraltar, we went to Spain, but we went to Gibraltar and then we went out to there where those monkeys are. Anyone been to where the monkeys are? Isn't it terrifying? I thought this was a nice, pleasurable, touristy activity. But no, I was terrified by those monkeys. Millie got the monkey on her head. I was like, Millie, I went in the cafe, shut the door. I was like, don't get this. And then Emily had tassels on her bag, and the monkeys kept coming down. She held onto her tassels. And anyway, we were there in Gibraltar, and there was this lady who was from the Bible bookshop, right? Tim has friends with people all over the world. And anyway, he had friends with this lady and this gentleman from the Bible bookshop. And they said they'd show us around Gibraltar. So they took us up to those horrid monkeys. And then she started saying, Ruth this and Ruth that. Well, it's not my name, so I didn't respond. In the end, the children said to me, Mum, she's talking to you. What do you mean she's talking to me? She's calling you Ruth. Oh, right. So I just then, instead of correcting her, because I thought, I'm never going to see this lady again, am I? Let her think I'm Ruth. I mean, there's no skin off my nose. I just carried on responding. But every time she said, Ruth, what do you think about this? All the children got the giggles, Anyway, so then sometimes they say, remember you were called Ruth in Gibraltar? And I'm like, yeah, remember that. I always remember too, when my sister... her husband, Martin, he had a car accident and he was in hospital. And he was opposite this guy. And they built up a really, really strong relationship together in the hospital. And months later, when they were both out of hospital, she met this guy in the street in Worthing. And she was like... She knew that she needed to remember his name. And she was like, I can't remember his name. Have you ever been in that situation? You need to remember that name. And you cannot remember. I can't remember the name. She was like, can't remember the name. And then suddenly, just as he was going, she remembered that his name was Oliver. And with great gusto and enthusiasm, she shouted, bye-bye, Oliver. That's just something I do. Remember the name, think you got it, and call them the wrong name. With absolute confidence, she did that to poor Ovula. So, whose name was Oliver. Remembering someone's name. My mum, right, she had 5 children. She couldn't remember all of our names. I mean, I can't remember my children's names sometimes. I know that this is probably going against the point of God knowing our names. I do know my children's names, but sometimes I get them all mixed up. Do you? Millie, Poppy, Rosie, I get them all mixed up. So anyway, my mum, she didn't even try. She used to call us all Jenny, right? So my mum, she was like, I can't get to grips with like 5 children. She just used to shout at the bottom of the stairs, Jenny, it's dinner time. And so, then my mum, we have nicknames, don't we? My mum called my dad, his initials are DPT, so she used to call him Dippity, and then it was Dips. Dips this, Dips that. We have nicknames, funny names, sweet names that we call each other, don't we? Do we? Sometimes we call each other nasty names. And that's not so good, is it? But names are really, really important. Names can also sometimes, they can feel like, I've been called names where I'm like, that's not who I am, and I don't like it because it feels like it's controlling. Sometimes people call other people names. It maybe makes them feel belittled. Names are very, very powerful. What we call each other is very, very powerful. And when we look at our children's names and when we research that, we'll have thought long and hard about what we call our children. Why do we call them those names? But the most amazing thing is just like Joe said at the very beginning, God knows your name. God knows your name, whether you like it or not, or God knows you. In fact, it says, just like Joe said at the beginning, Isaiah 49, see, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Just take a minute to think about God knows your name. He knows you. He knows who you are. He has your name written on the palms of his hands. It's an incredible thing to realize. And then Isaiah 43 says this, but now, says the Lord, who created you, O Jacob, who formed you, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. God calls us by our name and he says, you're mine. You're not mine, not in a possession kind of way, not in a controlling kind of way, in a way like, these are my children. This is my husband. This is my wife. These are my friends. in a way that is like, they belong to me. I love them with an absolute amazing love. They're mine, my children, and I know them by name. If we just take that in just for a moment, isn't it amazing that God knows your name and he knows my name? And then, of course, there are names, other names. There are names that we can put on ourselves. There are things that we say. There are labels that we put on ourselves. There are names that other people have called us and maybe become part of our identity and part of our roots. There are things that we call ourselves, maybe privately, maybe nobody knows that we call ourselves those things, but we know. We know that we call ourselves all sorts of different things, especially sometimes, I think, if you've had, well, I was one of 5, and in the one of 5 children, you find your slot. You have to find, sometimes people are like, well, I'm the brainy one. I'm the brainy one in the mix. Yeah, this is who I am. I'm intelligent, I'm brainy, I love reading, that's who I am. Sometimes we say, I'm known as the beautiful one. I'm not saying that about me. I'm known as the pretty one, the glamorous one, or the one that gets all the boys, that gets all the girls. How are you known? We can be known as the naughty one. Oh, yeah, they're challenging. They're difficult, that you can bet they'll be difficult. You can be known as the challenging, the difficult, the outspoken one, the naughty one, the one that's always causing trouble, the rebellious one. Sometimes we label that. Sometimes we're the negative one or the positive one. You're always the positive. You're always the negative. What one are you? What have you named yourself? The sporty one. Maybe you're really sporty. I'm the sporty one. I'm the fit one. I'm the one that runs and I do this and I do that. That's part of who I am, part of my identity. You might be the godly one. Oh yeah, I'm the one that in the family. I'm the Christian in the family. I'm the godly one. I'm the one that everybody looks to learn about the Bible or whatever. I'm that one. I'm that one. What about I'm the crazy one? I'm the one that never does things right. I'm the creative one. I'm the musical one. All of the things that we can label ourselves. But sometimes I think what's really interesting is there's obviously some negative labels in that, and those negative labels may be very, very difficult for you, and you don't like them at all. But some of those labels, say if you're known as the beautiful one, all right, that looks like it's positive, doesn't it? But I don't think that is always positive to be known as that, because I think that if you are known for your looks and your beauty, well, you have to somehow have that anxiety about keeping that up and making sure that you keep beautiful, making sure that you keep looking like that, feeling that yourself, if your worth is in there, then when you get old and maybe you don't look as beautiful, what does that feel like? The brainy one, okay? You may be known as, I'm quite intelligent, I'm quite brainy. But what does that feel like when you don't know something? What does that feel like when you think, I don't know about that, and I've got to pretend that I do now. How do the positive things that we say about ourselves and the negative things affect us? What is it about our names that brings us good things, and what is it that brings us some difficult things? What about the gender that we are, the names that we can call each other? One of the things that I found really, really fascinating was that I was reading, somebody was talking to me about Genesis 5, and we were talking about God and God's name for us. And in Genesis 5 it says this: when God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female, and he blessed them. And he named them mankind when they were created. I've never, ever read that in the Bible before, that God called us, men and women, basically he called both of us Adam. He called both of us mankind. It was Adam who called her Eve. It wasn't God. It was Adam who called Eve, Eve. But God said, you, both of you are going to absolutely work together. His dream for us as male and female was to work together, to lay down our lives together, to dream together, to support each other, to champion each other. It was never, ever dreamt up by God that there was a battle of the sexes. It was never dreamt by God that one would dominate the other. He said, you, both of you, are mankind. You are Adam, both of you. That's who God named us. It was someone else who named us Adam and Eve. And I think that when, as soon as I heard that struck me. And I was like, yes, I know that God has called both. Think about the destruction that there has been between men and women for years and years and years. The divide that there has been, the fight that there has been, the injustice that there has been so often. And God says, I called you to work together. I called you to be together and work in a way that prefers each other, that loves each other. That's what I've called. And I sometimes think we may be well versed about some of the things that have happened with women in our society and the injustice that there has been in women in the world. But we don't often talk about what happens with men, because I often think about even things like, if you watch any of the World War II or World War I things that happened, men who did not fight, they were called, what were they called? They were called cowards. They would be killed for not fighting. They would be killed if they were traumatized on the battlefield and they ran away. What happened to them? And we're living with that to this day. We live with that to this day, with men thinking, I can't say that I am scared or weak. That's one of the things that we live in. It wasn't what God said. It was what men have said over other people. We need to get back to what does God say about me as a woman and me as a man. What does God say that is different to what the world has said about you? And what even the church sometimes has said. What does God say about men and women? And what does he say about us working together, laying down our lives for each other? That is what I dream of seeing, because I think that is what God's intention was at the very beginning when he said, I've named you, man, I've named you Adam, both of you. So sometimes Tim and I, there's stuff in your muscle memory, aren't there? Even with all of this root stuff, there's stuff in our muscle memory that maybe we think, I'm not that anymore, but we still feel it. We have it in our bones. Your muscle memory is like, when you need your muscle memory to start walking again, or to start, because you're relying on your muscles to remember. Sometimes Tim and I, we sit down and we'll say to each other, what is it? We have a conversation, and it's not an accusatory conversation. It's more like a curious conversation, I would say. And we say, what is it in our muscle memory that we have taken on about men and women that isn't true, that isn't what God says about us? And we talk about it and we become curious. We don't always find the answers to it, but we recognize that in both of us, there is muscle memory in that we may believe certain things, but we act in another way sometimes. And that's the same with all of the things that we're talking about today. You may think, oh no, I don't believe that, but your muscle memory is saying something different. And it's really important for us to look at what we actually do think and what we actually are living out. So that's part of what some of the things I've been thinking about. And then, of course, people will call different names as well in the Bible. I think this is, we've got Abraham, right? Abraham was called Abraham. Abraham means, right, father of many. Can you imagine being called father of many and having no children? Can you imagine this scenario? Being called father of many. Oh yes, you're called father of many, but you have no children at all. And then God comes along before he's even had any children at all, because some of you will know that Abraham did have children. He had Isaac with Sarah, who was, in her 90s or whatever. And so anyway, then God, before before he even has any children, and he's already been called father of many, God then says to him, all right, I'm changing your name, Abraham. It's going to be Abraham. Do you know what that means? Father of a multitude. I mean, right, so father of many. It would be good, God, if you could have started with one or even two. But now you've called me father of many. I haven't got any children at all, and you've called me father of many. Look what God did. Look what God did in that situation. And, we can tell the story from it because God did, he did what he promised. What about Peter? Okay, let's have a look at Peter. Simon, his name was. Simon, he was a little bit impetuous, wasn't he, Peter? He cut off the ear. Jesus is going through the most terrible time and Peter's falling asleep. Then Jesus is captured and Peter lobs off the ear of the man. Then he denies him 3 times. This is Simon. And what does God call him? Peter, you're going to be the rock on which I build my church. What? You what, Jesus? Didn't you know that he cut off that bloke's ear over there? He loses his temper, Jesus. Oh yeah, that's not why I've called him though. I've called him the rock. That's who he is. And I just think how amazing that God's naming of us is so powerful. It's so important. And it's so what we need to hear. So what does God call us then? What's his name for us? 1 Peter 2 says this, but you, that's you, all of us sitting in this room here. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. And then it says this, this is in the Message. But you are the ones chosen by God, chosen for the high calling of priestly work, chosen to be a holy people, God's instruments to do his work and speak out for him. Tell others of the night and day difference he made for you, from nothing to something, from rejected to accepted. What does God call you? I'm just going to really quickly go through the 5 things that God calls you. So listen, because if this is what your name is, then you got your roots right, okay? This is who you are, then you keep growing with this. You are chosen and accepted. That's your name, chosen and accepted. It says in Thessalonians, for we know, brothers, loved by God, that he has chosen you. He has chosen you. Yeah, everyone's been in the, in the PE thing where you're not chosen. I was never chosen. Were you? Oh, I don't blame them for not choosing me. I was awful, absolutely awful at PE. Well, anyway, I was never chosen, but God chooses you. You're not the end of the line. He says, I want you. I've chosen you. You are chosen and you are accepted. Whoever you are, wherever you've come from, whatever's going on with you, he says, I accept you. Come here, I'm accepting you. Do you know what? That is a mind-blowing, life-changing thing to happen to us, isn't it? In a world where we're not accepted always, God says, I accept you and I have chosen you. Second thing, you are priceless and valuable. Your name is priceless and valuable. Jeremiah says this, the Lord appeared to us saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness. The value that God puts on your life is priceless. He died for you so that you could be free. You are priceless. These boots, right? If I sold these boots on eBay or wherever you sell them, I wouldn't get maybe a lot of money. But if I was, say, Princess Catherine selling these boots, I'd get a lot of money. All right? Because what makes you priceless is the person who you belong to. And you belong to God. And that makes you priceless. You're priceless. You are valuable. So valuable. Some of you feel like trash in here. Rubbish. God says, that's not who you're called. That's not your name. Your name is priceless and valuable. And then another thing that God calls us, unconditionally loved. Whoa! Who unconditionally loves you? No one in the whole world except for God. All of us have conditions with love. All of us do, in some way or another. Even the people we love the most. But God says, I love you unconditionally. Jeremiah says this. I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness. He has loved us. He loves us in such an amazing way. It is not conditional. He doesn't love you more if you do this. He doesn't love you more if you do that. He just loves you completely. Of course we want to do good things and right things, but that doesn't mean that he loves you less. He loves you unconditionally. That is mind-blowing. Don't you think that's mind-blowing? I mean, can we understand that? Probably not. It's difficult for my brain to understand. Fourthly, you are completely forgiven. Completely forgiven. I don't know if you're walking around with shame or guilt, or your name is shame and guilt, but God says you are forgiven. There is no thing that you can do that you can't say, I'm sorry for that, God, and he won't forgive you. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just, John says, and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. He forgives us. We are forgiven. That's a very, very freeing thing. You may not actually think that you've done much wrong. Sometimes as Christians, sometimes in this world, we think, well, wrong things are like criminal things. Wrong things aren't criminal things. Wrong things are anything where we have not, kind of like anything where we fall short of what God wants for us. And so those are the things that we say, God, please forgive us for those things. And we are completely forgiven. And then the last thing I want to say is that we are competent. We are a royal priesthood, just like it says there. You are a royal priesthood. You are capable. You are competent. And I think that this is a very, very interesting thing to think about because in lots of places you have the priest. And the priest, is the person that the people go to. It's the go-between between you and God. And that's what the priest is. Do you know that in the Bible, it says we are all priests? You know, we are all priests, you and me. You and me. There isn't a person that isn't a priest that is a Christian. Because God says, I've given you the capability of reaching out to somebody, and I've given you the capability of being a priest in your workplace, a priest in your family. A priest is the go-between between God and man. You are the go-betweens between God and men, God and people. You are the go-betweens. And he says, I have made you royal priests. It's not like these priests over here. These are the priests. They're the special. We are all the priesthood of God. All of us. If we could get hold of that, that would really, really change things in an amazing way. It's not like, oh, well, Becca can do that. I think she can sort that out. No. You have as much access to God as I do. You have as much access to do what God is calling you to do as I do, or as any priest, or as the bishop, or as the pope, or anyone in the whole world. You have the access. God has said to you, you're the person for this job and this time, and I've made you capable. I've made you royal priests. Now take it up and go. It says in Corinthians, such confidence we have through Christ before God. Not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence comes from God. So we don't say we can do it because we're great. We say we can do it because you're great, God. You are great. That's how we can do those things that you have called us to do. And so let us stand up, shall we, together? Let's stand up. I wonder if the band, you can come on up. So sometimes I think about, I've been in some situations, especially this week, where I am reminded of the brokenness in our world. And I'm reminded that if we don't step up and say things and do things and love, no one else is going to. We are in a world that is in turmoil. We have systems that are broken all over the place. And if we sometimes don't have the guts to stand up and say, I'm going to be Jesus in this, I'm going to speak Jesus in this situation. We are all called to be priests, and God makes us capable. Sometimes, don't you think, especially over Littlehampton, there is, the name is, you are not competent. You're never going to amount to anything. You're never going to go where you need to go. Sometimes I think that's the name that is put over us, over our town. I see it sometimes in the young people, not our young people necessarily, but some of the young people that are in our town. There's sometimes a name that is spoken over them. And we've got to be the name changers. We've got to step up. Church, we've got to step up and see people's names changed, including our own sometimes. And the name of Jesus, we want that to be lifted high in this place. And so just in your heart right now, I wonder if you can just close your eyes and just say, what's my name, God? Is there anything that needs to change? Just let God speak to you. Let God speak to you about some of the things when I talked about the labels. That's been very, very difficult for you. Or some of those things you're starting to see differently. Just talk to God about those things now. If you have no other questions, say, God, what do you call me? What do you call me? Are the roots of you, the very core of you, in your muscle memory, in your thinking, in your whole life, are they that you are chosen and accepted? Are they that you are priceless and valuable? Are they that you are unconditionally loved? Are they that you are completely forgiven and that you are competent, a royal priest? Some of you, I think some people are called stupid. You've called yourself stupid. I sometimes do that. Sometimes call myself, you stupid girl, why did you do that? God doesn't call you stupid. What does God call you? Some of you have been called challenging. As children, you've been called challenging. What does God call you? Some of you, your whole life has been focused on being intelligent. What does God call you? Some of you call yourselves logical. What does God say? What does God say about you? Okay, I just would love, it would be great to have an opportunity, to just pray. Just pray for, if there's something you know that God is speaking for you about your name and about any label that you've made for yourself. I wonder if you just want to come down to the front, Or else, if that's too big a step for you, turn to the person next to you and say, will you just pray for me? But either of those things would be good. So we're just going to reflect. And if you just want to just keep talking to God, keep talking to God. If you want to respond and you think it would be really helpful to pray through this thing as a marker of like, no, today's going to be different, then come down to the front and we'll pray.